Just as I was about to marry him, my ex stood up and exposed a secret about my groom I never imagined. My wedding turned into a nightmare. They say every love story begins with a spark, a single moment where two paths collide and change forever. For me, that moment was 3 years ago when I first met Michael. He was everything I thought I wanted: confident, charming, ambitious, the kind of man who could light up a room with a smile and make you feel like you were the only one in it. When he proposed, it felt like all the messy heartbreaks of my past had finally led me to this fairy tale ending. The ring glistened in the candlelight, my friends screamed with joy, and my parents cried tears of happiness. I said yes without hesitation, believing in every promise he whispered that night about forever, about building a life together. From that moment, my life turned into a whirlwind of wedding planning, venues, invitations, dress fittings, every detail carefully chosen, every day filled with laughter and excitement. My mother fussed over flower arrangements. My best friend Ashley begged me to let her organize the bachelorette party. And Michael, well, he seemed the picture of the perfect groom. He accompanied me to every meeting, reassured me when stress overwhelmed me, and kissed my forehead saying, "Don't worry, love. Everything will be perfect." And yet, there were moments when something inside me whispered otherwise, tiny, fleeting doubts that came and went like shadows in the sun. It wasn't anything obvious, nothing I could point at and say, "This is wrong." Just little things, like how he avoided talking about certain parts of his past, brushing them off with a quick change of subject, or the way he grew strangely tense whenever I mentioned old flames, even casually. The biggest of those shadows was the thought of Jason, my ex. Jason had been my first real love, the kind that makes your heart race and your world revolve around one person. We had fallen hard and fast, but like fire, it burned too bright, too quickly. He broke me when he left, and I promised myself I would never let anyone have that kind of power over me again. When Michael entered my life, I thought he was my second chance at happiness. He wasn't reckless like Jason, wasn't unpredictable. He was stability, commitment, security, and I convinced myself that was what I needed. Still, sometimes at night, I would catch myself wondering if I'd truly moved on. Not because I wanted Jason back, but because his ghost lingered like an unfinished sentence in my life. But I pushed those thoughts aside. This was my wedding, my moment, my happily ever after. As the big day drew closer, everyone told me how lucky I was, and I believed them. I wanted to believe them. Because little did I know, the past I thought I had buried, the man I thought I had left behind, was about to walk back into my life. And he wouldn't just come back quietly. He would return on the very day I was supposed to marry the man of my dreams. Do you believe weddings reveal people's true colors? The closer the wedding drew, the more I noticed little cracks in the perfect picture Michael and I had painted together. At first, I brushed them off. Stress, work pressure, pre-wedding jitters. But the whispers in my gut kept getting louder. It began with small things. One evening, I found him on the balcony talking on the phone. His voice was low, urgent. When he noticed me, he ended the call abruptly and forced a smile. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Work stuff," he said quickly, slipping his phone into his pocket. "You wouldn't be interested." Something about his tone felt rehearsed, like a line delivered too many times. But I let it slide. After all, he was busy with the family business, always juggling deals and meetings. Another time, while finalizing our guest list, I pointed to a blank space. "Shouldn't we invite your old college friends? You never talk about them." His expression flickered for just a moment before settling into his usual charm. "We've lost touch. No need to dig into the past, right? What matters is us, our future." It sounded sweet, but the way he avoided the question left me unsettled. Why did he never talk about his life before me? The doubts multiplied when Ashley, my best friend, noticed something too. We were sipping coffee one afternoon when she leaned in, her voice low. "Don't take this the wrong way, but Michael seems guarded. Like he's hiding something." I laughed it off, though uneasily. "Every man has secrets, Ashley. It doesn't mean they're bad ones." But the truth was, her words echoed the fears I had been pushing down. Then came the incident with the necklace. Michael had gifted me a delicate diamond pendant a few weeks before the wedding. It was stunning, elegant, and expensive, the kind of thing that made everyone gasp when I wore it. One night, while admiring it in the mirror, I noticed a tiny engraving on the back. K. My heart skipped. "K," I whispered to myself. My name didn't start with K, neither did his. The next day, I confronted him gently. "Michael, this necklace, it has an initial. K, who does it belong to?" For a second, his face went pale. Then he chuckled nervously. "You're imagining things. It must be the jeweler's mark or something. Don't overthink it." He kissed my forehead before I could press further, but that night, I couldn't sleep. The K burned in my mind. Somewhere deep inside, a storm was building. I told myself it was just pre-wedding paranoia. Everyone gets nervous before marriage, right? Everyone has doubts. And yet, as I looked at Michael, my perfect fiancé with his perfect smile, I couldn't shake the feeling that the life I thought I was stepping into might not be as perfect as it seemed. I didn't know it then, but the truth was already on its way. And it would arrive in the most dramatic way possible, escorted by the man whose initial haunted my necklace. The man named Jason. Have you ever doubted your partner but ignored the signs? It happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening, just a week before the wedding. I was at the boutique, standing on a pedestal while the seamstress adjusted the hem of my wedding lehenga. My mother and Ashley sat nearby, debating whether gold or ivory jewelry would better match the embroidery. The room buzzed with excitement, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and fabric starch. Then the doorbell chimed. I didn't pay much attention until I heard his voice, a voice I knew better than my own heartbeat. "Excuse me, is she here?" My chest tightened, my head whipped around, and there he was. Jason. For a second, the world tilted. Time slowed. The seamstress's hands froze mid-stitch. My mother's lips parted in surprise, and Ashley nearly spilled her coffee. Jason looked exactly as I remembered. Tall, broad-shouldered, with those intense eyes that always seemed to see straight through me. But there was something different now. He wasn't the carefree boy I'd once loved. There was weight in his gaze, tension in his stance. My voice cracked. "Jason." He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Hi, Sarah. Long time." My heart hammered so loudly I thought everyone in the room could hear it. Memories of us flooded back. Late night drives, whispered promises. The night he broke my heart without explanation. I gripped the fabric of my lehenga to steady myself. What are you doing here? He hesitated, glancing at my mother and Ashley. I needed to talk to you. It's important. Ashley stood instantly, protective as always. She doesn't need this, Jason. Not now. She's getting married. His jaw clenched. Exactly why I need to talk to her. Before it's too late. The weight of his words sent a chill through me. Before it's too late? My mother frowned but didn't interfere. She simply gathered her bag and said softly, "We'll give you a moment." She led the others out, leaving us in the hushed boutique. The silence between us was suffocating. I crossed my arms, trying to shield myself from the storm he carried. You shouldn't be here. You can't just walk back into my life like this. I know, he said, his voice low, almost pained. But Sarah, I couldn't stay quiet. You're about to make the biggest mistake of your life. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? His eyes locked on mine, steady and unflinching. Michael, the man you think you're marrying, he isn't who he says he is. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Every doubt, every shadow I had pushed aside came roaring back. But this was Jason, the same man who had shattered me before. Could I trust him now? Or was this just another cruel game? I wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, but all I managed was a whisper. Why should I believe you? His reply was simple, almost haunting. Because I know him better than you think. Should we always trust our instincts when something feels off? I stared at Jason, my pulse racing. His words clung to me like a curse. I know him better than you think. The boutique, once filled with laughter and anticipation, now felt suffocating. My dream lehenga hung heavy on me, suddenly less like a symbol of joy and more like a trap. You can't just throw accusations and expect me to believe you, I snapped, though my voice trembled. Michael is nothing like you. He doesn't lie. He doesn't... Jason's bitter laugh cut me off. Doesn't lie? Sarah, he's built his entire life on lies. You think he's the perfect man? Ask him about Lauren. The name landed like a thunderclap. Lauren? I whispered. Who's Lauren? Jason's jaw tightened. Someone he doesn't want you to know about. Someone who should have been standing where you are now. I wanted to demand more, but before I could, the door opened. Michael stepped in. My heart jumped into my throat. He froze the moment he saw Jason, his usual charm cracking into something darker, anger, maybe even fear. What the hell are you doing here? Michael's voice was sharp, low, dangerous. Jason smirked. Funny, I was about to ask you the same. The tension between them was electric, heavy enough to crush me where I stood. I looked from one man to the other, panic rising in my chest. Michael, I said carefully, do you know him? For the briefest second, his eyes betrayed him. Recognition, dread. Then it was gone, replaced by a dismissive laugh. Of course not, he said quickly. He's just some bitter ex trying to ruin our wedding. Don't listen to him, Sarah. But Jason stepped forward, his voice steady. Tell her the truth, Michael. Or should I? Michael's fists clenched. Get out. I felt like I was drowning. My eyes searched Michael's face, desperate for reassurance, for honesty. But all I saw was rage barely held in check. Michael, I whispered, who is Lauren? The question shattered the room. Michael went pale. His mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked vulnerable, caught. Jason's gaze softened as he looked at me. You deserve the truth, Sarah. Don't marry a man who's already betrayed someone before you. Enough, Michael roared. He grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him. He's trying to poison you against me. Don't let him win. You love me. You know me. But did I? The doubts I had buried came flooding back. The secret phone calls, the engraved necklace, the shadows he never let me see. My heart begged me to trust him, but my mind screamed questions I couldn't ignore. I yanked my arm free. My voice was trembling but firm. If I'm going to marry you, Michael, I need the truth. All of it. No more secrets. Michael's face hardened, his mask slipping further. Jason stood tall, daring him to lie, and I realized for the first time that my wedding wasn't just about love. It was about survival. What's worse, being betrayed before marriage or after? The boutique felt colder after that confrontation, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the tension. Jason left without another word, though not before giving me one last look, a mixture of warning and regret. Michael insisted we go home immediately, brushing off my questions with forced smiles and shallow reassurances. But my heart was no longer calm. My mind replayed Jason's words endlessly. Who is Lauren? That night, as I lay in bed beside Michael, I studied his face. He slept soundly, or pretended to. His hand rested on my waist like a claim, but all I felt was distance. I couldn't rest. The next morning, I decided to dig. I wasn't a suspicious person by nature, but something inside me had snapped. If I was to pledge my life to this man, I needed to know who he really was. I started with his phone. When he showered, I picked it up, my hands trembling. It was locked, of course, but the password came easily, my birthday. For a moment, that almost disarmed me. See? He trusts you, I told myself. But what I found buried inside made my stomach twist. There were messages from an unsaved number, always ending with -M short, urgent exchanges. My throat went dry. When he came out of the shower, I forced myself to act normal, though my chest was on fire with questions. He kissed my cheek casually, unaware of the storm raging inside me. Later that day, I confided in Ashley. I knew it, she said, slamming her coffee cup on the table. That man is hiding something. We need to find out who this Lauren is. Her words ignited a fire in me. Together, we started pulling strings. Quietly, carefully. We searched through social media, asked subtle questions to distant acquaintances of Michael, pieced together fragments of his past. And then finally, a name surfaced. Lauren Kapoor. Not just anyone. She had once been engaged to Michael. I stared at the screen in disbelief, my heart pounding. The pictures were old but clear. Lauren, radiant in traditional attire, standing beside Michael. He was smiling, arm around her shoulders. They looked like the perfect couple. But there was no record of a wedding. Just silence after a certain year. Why didn't he tell you? Ashley muttered, scrolling through the photos. An engagement that serious? And he never mentioned her? That's not just forgetting. It's hiding. I felt sick. Betrayal burned hot in my veins. Was Jason right all along? That evening, I confronted Michael. Why didn't you tell me about Lauren? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. He froze, his mask slipping. For a moment, his eyes were raw, vulnerable. Then, just as quickly, the charm returned. It wasn't important, he said softly, reaching for my hand. That was the past. You're my future, but his grip felt like chains. And I couldn't stop wondering, what had happened to Lauren? Would you forgive a groom for hiding secrets if he confessed before the wedding? Michael's dismissal only deepened the pit in my stomach. That was the past. You're my future. His words were sweet, but they rang hollow, like a song played on a broken instrument. I couldn't let it go. Ashley, ever the detective, helped me dig deeper. The next day, she suggested we visit someone who might know more about Michael's past. Jason. I hesitated. The idea of meeting my ex again felt like reopening a wound I had spent years stitching shut. But if Jason truly knew the truth, I needed answers. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe far from the eyes of gossiping relatives. Jason arrived looking tense, as though he had expected me to cancel. His gaze softened when it landed on me, though I refused to let nostalgia weaken my resolve. Tell me about Lauren, I demanded before the waiter even took our order. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. I was hoping you'd ask. But I need you to brace yourself, Sarah. The truth about Michael isn't pretty. My heart pounded as he spoke. Lauren Kapoor wasn't just his fiancée. She was his obsession. They were engaged 3 years ago. At first, everything looked perfect. Lavish parties, expensive gifts, the works. But behind closed doors, things were darker. Controlling, manipulative. He isolated her from her friends, made her dependent on him. I swallowed hard, bile rising in my throat. The signs, so subtle with me, suddenly felt glaring. What happened to her? I whispered. Jason's jaw clenched. The engagement ended abruptly. Rumors spread. Some said she caught him cheating, others whispered about something worse. But the truth? She disappeared from the social scene completely. No one's heard from her in years. I froze. Disappeared? He nodded grimly. And Michael made sure no one asked too many questions. His family's money buried the scandal. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too loud, though no one else seemed to notice the storm in my chest. Ashley leaned forward, her eyes blazing. So you're saying he destroyed her life? And now he's trying again with Sarah? Jason's gaze met mine, heavy with urgency. I'm saying you're in danger. He isn't who you think he is. And if you marry him, Sarah, you'll lose yourself, just like Lauren did. I sat frozen, my fingers gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to dismiss Jason's words as jealousy, but the fear in his eyes wasn't the kind of thing you could fake. I remembered Michael's flashes of temper, the way he dismissed my doubts, the necklace engraved with forever, a forever that suddenly felt more like a warning than a promise. When I returned home that night, Michael greeted me with his usual smile, pulling me into his arms as if nothing was wrong. His scent, his warmth should have comforted me, but all I could think about was Lauren. Where was she now? And more importantly, what had Michael done to her? Do you think an ex should interfere at a wedding if they know the truth? The question of Lauren's fate consumed me. Every smile from Michael felt like a mask, every affectionate touch like a trap. I couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe without wondering, was I walking into the same nightmare that had swallowed her? I decided I couldn't wait for the truth to come to me. I had to find Lauren. With Ashley's help, we began searching in earnest. Late nights scrolling through old university records, social media accounts that had gone dormant, alumni groups where her name was mentioned in whispers. We found fragments. An old charity gala photo, a tagged picture at a friend's birthday party, both from years ago. Then, nothing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. One evening, Ashley burst into my room with her laptop. I found something. She showed me a forum post from a distant acquaintance who had mentioned Lauren briefly. It was cryptic. Sometimes walking away doesn't mean you're safe. Some scars never heal. I shivered. It wasn't proof, but it was something. The next day, I decided to test Michael. Over dinner, I casually brought up the name. Do you ever talk to Lauren? The reaction was immediate. His glass slipped in his hand, shattering against the floor. For a moment, his eyes burned with fury before he plastered on a smile. Why would you bring her up? He asked too calmly. She's irrelevant. Don't let Jason's poison get to you, but his tone wasn't reassurance. It was command. Later that night, as he slept, I opened his laptop. He was careful, but not careful enough. Buried in his files was a hidden folder. Inside, old pictures of him and Lauren. Some romantic, others candid. But what made my blood run cold were the emails. Drafts never sent. You can't leave me. If you think you can run, you're wrong. Forever means forever, Lauren. The same word. Forever. The same one engraved on the necklace he gave me. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking. The next morning, I couldn't look at him the same way. Every word, every gesture dripped with double meaning. I realized I was being watched, not just by Michael, but by his carefully crafted world. His friends, his family, even the wedding planners seemed to report back to him. It was suffocating. That night, I met Ashley in secret. He knows I'm suspicious, I whispered. I have to find Lauren before the wedding. It's the only way I'll know the truth. Ashley's expression hardened with determination. Then we'll track her down. And if she's gone, her voice faltered, then you need to be ready to walk away from him, no matter how hard it is. The thought of leaving Michael broke my heart, but the thought of becoming another Lauren terrified me even more. As we parted ways that night, a message pinged on my phone. Unknown number. Stop looking for Lauren, or you'll regret it. What's your opinion, truth or loyalty? Which matters more? The message glowed on my screen like a curse. Stop looking for Lauren, or you'll regret it. I froze, the words slicing through me like ice. My first instinct was to think it was spam, some cruel coincidence. But deep down, I knew this was connected. Someone, maybe even Michael himself, knew I was digging into the past. I deleted the text immediately, but the unease lingered like smoke after a fire. The next day, I tried to act normal around Michael, though every smile I gave him felt brittle, every laugh forced. He noticed, of course. You've been distant, he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Cold feet? That's normal before a wedding. I nodded mutely, unwilling to meet his gaze. Because if I did, he'd see it. The fear, the suspicion, the cracks in my trust. That afternoon, Ashley and I met again in secret, this time at the public library where we thought no one would follow. I showed her the message. Her jaw tightened. This proves it. Someone's watching you, and if it's not Michael, then it's someone close to him. Do you think Lauren's alive? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ashley hesitated. If she is, then she's hiding. And if she isn't, then the answer might be even darker than we imagined. The fear in her tone made my stomach clench. As the wedding approached, the threats escalated. Anonymous calls that ended in silence. A bouquet of dead roses delivered to my door with no note. Once, while walking home from Ashley's apartment, I felt footsteps trailing me in the dark. When I turned, the street was empty, but the sense of eyes on me refused to fade. I confided in Jason again despite my hesitation. He looked furious when I told him. This is exactly what I warned you about, he said, his fists clenched on the table. Michael isn't just hiding secrets, he's dangerous. You have to call this wedding off before it's too late. But canceling wasn't so simple. My family had invested everything in this wedding. Invitations had been sent, venues booked, guests flown in. Backing out would mean humiliation on a massive scale, not just for me, but for everyone connected to me. And that's what Michael was counting on, wasn't it? That I'd feel trapped. That night, while staring at my bridal lehenga hanging neatly in its protective cover, a realization struck me. This wedding wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. If I went through with it blindly, I might end up like Lauren, lost, forgotten, silenced. But if I walked away, what if the threats grew worse? What if they didn't let me walk away at all? Sleep evaded me. I lay awake, torn between fear and resolve until my phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was an address. And the words, if you want the truth about Lauren, come alone. If you were in the bride's place, would you stop the wedding? The address burned into my mind. I stared at the message for hours, torn between terror and desperate curiosity. What if it was a trap? What if Michael had sent it, testing my loyalty? Or worse, what if it was connected to Lauren and this was my only chance to find out the truth before it was too late? By dawn, I knew I couldn't ignore it. I told Ashley my plan. She grabbed my hand, eyes wide. You're not going alone. It could be dangerous. I have to, I insisted. If Michael suspects you're helping me, he'll go after you too. I'll keep my phone on, share my location. If anything goes wrong, you call the police. Ashley reluctantly agreed, though the worry in her eyes lingered like a storm cloud. That evening, under the cover of darkness, I followed the address. It led me to the outskirts of the city, to a crumbling old guest house hidden behind overgrown trees. The building looked abandoned, its paint peeling, windows cracked, a place forgotten by time, much like Lauren herself. My heart hammered as I pushed the creaking gate open. The air was thick with dust and silence, broken only by the crunch of my footsteps. Inside, the dim light of a single bulb flickered, and in that faint glow I saw her, Lauren. Older, thinner, her once vibrant face now hollow, eyes shadowed with fear and exhaustion. But it was her, alive. I froze. Lauren. She flinched at the sound of her name as if unused to hearing it. Slowly, recognition dawned in her eyes. You're Michael's bride. Her voice was hoarse, broken, like someone who hadn't spoken freely in years. I nodded, my throat dry. Why did you disappear? What happened? Her hands trembled as she reached for mine. You need to leave him. Now, before he destroys you like he destroyed me. My stomach twisted. Tell me everything. And she did. Michael's charm, his possessiveness that grew into obsession, the way he cut her off from her family and friends until she was completely alone. She tried to leave, but he wouldn't allow it. The night she fled, she barely escaped. His threats followed her, forcing her into hiding, too scared to resurface, too broken to fight back. He'll never let you go, she whispered, tears brimming. To him, love means control. Marriage means ownership. You won't just lose your freedom, you'll lose yourself. Every word felt like a dagger. I wanted to deny it, to believe Michael loved me differently. But deep down, I knew, the necklace engraved with forever, the sudden anger when I asked about her, the threats. Lauren gripped my hand tighter. Don't make the mistake I made. Run before it's too late. A sudden noise outside shattered the fragile moment, a door creaking, footsteps approaching. Lauren's face went pale. He found us, she whispered. Do you believe betrayal makes people stronger or more guarded? The footsteps outside grew louder, heavier, like a predator circling its prey. Lauren's grip on my hand was frantic, her breath shallow. We have to hide, she whispered, but before we could move, the door burst open. Michael. He stood in the doorway, his silhouette sharp against the flickering light. His expression was calm, too calm, but his eyes burned with something darker than rage. So this is where you've been hiding, Lauren, he said smoothly, as though greeting an old acquaintance instead of the woman he had hunted. His gaze shifted to me and his voice softened. Sarah, you weren't supposed to see this. You weren't supposed to see her. My heart pounded in my ears, but I forced myself to stand tall. You lied to me. About everything. Michael stepped closer, each stride deliberate. I didn't lie. I protected you. Lauren couldn't handle my love. She betrayed me. But you're different. You'll stay. You'll understand, I recoiled. His words weren't promises, they were shackles. Lauren found her voice trembling but fierce. She won't end up like me, Michael. She won't let you cage her. Michael's jaw tightened, his charm cracking to reveal the monster beneath. You think she'll walk away? She won't. The wedding is tomorrow. Everyone is waiting. Her family, mine. She has no choice. But he underestimated me. For the first time in days, clarity cut through the fear. You're wrong, I said, my voice steady. I do have a choice. And tomorrow, the truth will come out. The wedding day arrived, not with joy, but with dread. I walked into the decorated hall in my bridal lehenga, not as a bride, but as a woman about to set fire to her own fairy tale. Guests whispered in awe, oblivious to the storm brewing. Michael stood at the altar, smiling as if nothing was amiss, as if the night before hadn't happened. But when the priest asked us to join hands, I pulled away. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I can't marry you, I said, my voice shaking at first, then gaining strength. Because the man standing before me isn't who you think he is. The hall fell silent. With trembling fingers, I revealed everything. Michael's obsession, Lauren's disappearance, the threats, and then Lauren herself, stepping out from the shadows where she had hidden, her face pale but resolute. The crowd erupted. Shock, anger, disbelief. Michael's family tried to silence me, but the truth was louder than their denial. Michael lunged toward me, fury in his eyes. But this time, I wasn't alone. Jason stepped between us, shielding me. Ashley rushed forward. Even strangers in the crowd restrained Michael as he thrashed, his mask finally shattered. Lauren's voice cut through the chaos. "You can't hurt us anymore, Michael. Not again." The police arrived soon after, summoned by Ashley hours earlier just in case. Michael was dragged away, his promises of forever echoing like a curse. When the hall emptied, I stood with Lauren and Ashley, my hands trembling but free. The wedding that should have bound me became the day I broke my chains. I wasn't a bride. I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor. And for the first time, I believed in forever. But it was my forever. Should the bride get closure with her ex or leave the past behind forever?